From the studios of Canton High School, it's Focus on Football with Ben Aronson and Matt Martin.
Welcome to Canton High's first edition of Football Focus. In this show, we will recap the previous week of games in the National Football League and preview key games for the upcoming weeks. I'm Ben Aronson.
And I'm Matt Martin.
Let's get right to it. Matt, first game you want to recap this week?
I think we should start with the Sunday night hammer, the Packers Bears.
Oh, the rivalry. Yep.
Tale of two halves. The first half, coming from a Packers fan, it was tough to watch. Watching Khalil Mack dismantle our defense play after play. He was the best player on the field. Rodgers was carted out with that injury. It was like watching Week 6 versus the Vikings all over again last year. He went down and then tried to get up. He couldn't and had to get carted out. It was tough to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I think Rodgers obviously had a magical performance. I think it was a choke by the Bears. I think they were being way too conservative. They were running the ball. Mitch Trubisky should have kept running up the score. You know Aaron Rodgers can put points in bunches, and I think it's just I think Matt Nagy is going to be a great coach for the Bears, but I think it was a wake-up call for him.
I think it showed inexperience from the quarterback and from the head coach. You got to keep scoring in the NFL, but as much as the Bears collapsed, they had a 20-point lead that Aaron Rodgers picked apart all in the fourth quarter. You look at his performance, he couldn't move. One of his best abilities is outside the pocket. When he gets moving, he gets the defense moving, he's unstoppable, and they took that away from him. But he was still able to pick them apart. The pass to Allison, 20-3 at the start of the fourth quarter. He's like on the 50-yard line, takes the snap. There's a deep high safety, cover 6, and he looks hard to the left, baiting the safety over there. He knows he has Allison on the far side, and he just, without even stepping into it, just 50 yards, lost it to the far corner of the end zone. That's not something that every quarterback can do.
Yep, and the Bears actually ended up blowing a 20-point lead and lost that game 24-23. Next game you want to recap?
Let's go Patriots-Texans. In my opinion, it was just another one of those Patriots games. You know, you got Belichick, you got Brady. You know they're going to pull it out. The game's close, but you know in the end, it's going to come down to Tom Brady, and Tom Brady's going to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tom Brady looked very sharp at 41. I think we saw an improved Patriots defense. There was questions about the cornerbacks and about the Matt Patricia departure, but I think the Patriots really went out there and played. And I think a big standout for me was Deshaun Watson did not look that good.
He did not have a great game, but you couldn't expect the production he had last year. He had a phenomenal stretch last year before he got hurt, but regression's going to happen, even if it's in the negative, even if it's in the positive. He's going to have regression the other way now, because that's not the quarterback. We know that's not who he is, but he had a bad week. You couldn't expect him to put up these monster numbers like he did every week last year, because that's just not realistic.
Yep, and the Patriots ended up winning that game 27-20. Matt, the highest scoring first opening game in NFL history. What are your thoughts on it? Yeah.
Ryan Fitzmagic. What more can I say? I mean, coming in mid-30s, he's still kicking around. He had a phenomenal week, like he was younger. I mean, I don't know what to say about him.
I hope for Bucs fans that he can play this well every week, but unfortunately, I don't think it's happening.
I don't think it's happening.
I think it was a one-week thing. I think the Saints defense really underprepared for him. I think they really thought this Bucs were going to focus on running the ball, and they just got dismantled. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick putting up 48 points on you. That's horrible.
The Bucs also got a couple bounces. Mike Gillislee had that key fumble, and from the Bucs standpoint, great game to win. Like, good for them, but we know they're not they're not going to be playing in January, in February. A team like the Saints, this is a really tough game to lose because there are legitimately 8-9 teams who could represent the NFC in the Super Bowl because that's how competitive it is. And losing a game at home against the weakest member of the division, that's a tough game to lose.
It is a tough game. It was a 48-40 Bucs win over the Saints. And last game to recap for this week.
Steelers-Browns, I mean, Hugh Jackson, what more can I say? The Browns coaching staff is abysmal. They had the ball with like 50 seconds left in the fourth quarter and just took a knee, tie game, playing for overtime. Like, I'm not surprised to see them not winning games. Hugh Jackson, with repeated blunders, he made a statement at the media that Josh Gordon would not start or play a lot of snaps, and he played 69 of the 89. He started the game. I mean, just Hugh Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to look at it from Steelers' point of view. That's a game that you have to win.
Go back and restart.
Yeah. Is it close? All right. From the Steelers' point of view, that's a game that you expect to win. It's the first game of the season. You're supposed to be a Super Bowl contender in the AFC. You're missing Le'Veon Bell, but James Conner still played excellent. And a big standout was Big Ben looked horrible. He had 4 interceptions. A few. I mean, did he have any fumbles? No, I don't think he
he had
fumbled.
but those interceptions were bad.
Way too many interceptions against an improving but subpar Browns defense.
One thing I want to talk about is everyone's saying how James Conner, great game, played fantastic. Like, they don't need Le'Veon Bell, but it's not like that. Like, D'Angelo Williams has done the same thing when he's been in there for Bell, but Bell adds a whole another layer to his game. He is a substantially great talent. He is amazing, but he adds the wrinkle of a bluff. When the Patriots play the Steelers, Bill Belichick sells out. He makes it a fact that he's not going to let Le'Veon Bell run on him, which turns it into Antonio Brown. Teams have to be scared of him and game plan for him. If you take Le'Veon Bell out of the equation, then they have to focus on Antonio Brown, and then it's James Conner who has to beat the teams. Le'Veon Bell is substantially better for the team than James Conner, no matter what people say. They're gonna need him back if they want to do anything this year.
And I think it's just obviously bad coaching at the end of the game for the Browns, but tying the division favorite, it's a big step for them. The Browns are going to win games this year. They were 0-16 last year, and they got some huge names over the offseason. Jarvis Landry, Denzel Ward played great. He had 2 interceptions, but they need to keep improving, and they need to find a way to win games. And I don't want any more ties for this Cleveland Brown. I feel too bad for the fans of Cleveland.
And exactly. In this tough of a division, Big Ben had a tough start, but he's known to do this. He doesn't play good in September. It takes him a little while to get going. So I don't want to hear Josh Dobbs, all this. Big Ben's going to be fine. Steelers are going to be fine. They're going to figure it out. They always do.
Yeah, so let's get to the next segment of our show, the MVPs of the week. Matt, you want to say your first?
It's got to be Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he is the most important player to their team in the whole league. You take him out of that game, and Brett Hundley's gonna. Oh, no, not Brett Hundley. Deshaun Kaiser's gonna.
He did go in.
He came in and literally he played like 10 plays. He got sacked and handed Khalil Mack the ball and gave them a touchdown. If you just had the Packers punt instead of doing that, like, it would have been 17-3 when Rodgers came back in. Like, would have been a far easier of a comeback. He was not able to move in the second half, and he just showed how great he still is. He just ripped apart the defense. What can I say? First MVP of the week.
Yeah, my first MVP of the week is Ryan Fitzmagic. We already talked about him, but let me hit you with some stats. Yes, I'm actually talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick when I read this. 417 yards, 4 touchdowns throwing, and 1 rushing touchdown, and he beat the division favorite. I mean, what more? I mean, Jameis Sue, how much more could you ask for from a guy who has been a journeyman quarterback his entire career, has one game like this season, and then really just falls off the planet of the earth and just throws like 8 interceptions the next game against
We'll see. Could this be the year that he figures it out? Maybe he becomes a starting quarterback again.
Yeah.
My second MVP's got to be Alvin Kamara. He gets about 15 to 20 touches a game, usually splitting with Mark Ingram. This week, I expected more because of Ingram's absence, but he still only got about, I think it was 18 touches, but look at what he did with them. He puts up, every time he touches the ball, he makes a difference on the play, makes a substantial play. I mean, second MVP of the week.
And the last MVP of the week for us, he's a defensive player, the only one, and who else would it be but Khalil Mack? He had a monstrous week. He had a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, a sack, an interception, 3.5 quarterback hurries, and a defensive touchdown. Clear difference maker for the Bears. One of the main reasons that they were up so big on the Packers because he was just wreaking havoc on the Packers offense.
It was tough to watch.
It was tough to watch for a Packers fan. I'm sorry for you, Matt. So let's get to week 2. Big week 2. Actually, no, sorry. We're going to cut that up. Disappointment of the week for you, Matt.
It's got to be the Bills coaching staff. Had a quarterback combination all preseason. McCarron, Josh Allen, and Nathan Peterman, who somehow found his way still on the team after that abysmal performance against the Chargers last year.
5 interceptions in the first half.
And there were just these reports all off season that Nathan Peterman is still kicking around, still showing something that apparently he still had after last year. McCarron gets hurt and then gets traded, and Nathan Peterman gets announced as the starting quarterback. I mean, what did you expect? He comes out against. Yes, he did not have a lot of help. He had no O-line. McCoy was nothing this week. I mean, he couldn't do anything. The Ravens swallowed him up, and he doesn't have an offensive line. And he comes out and puts up 3 points and gets taken out for Josh Allen.
And they did just bench Nathan Peterman. Josh Allen will be starting week 2.
I mean,
against the Chargers, but I still don't think they'll make a big difference for the Bills.
I mean, Nathan Peterman, yes, he is not a good quarterback, but you can't just blame it on him. I mean, the Bills don't have nothing. They have nothing.
Yeah, they're really, and surprisingly, they made the playoffs last year. And then they get rid of a guy like Tyrod Taylor. I would rather have Tyrod Taylor grooming my rookie quarterback than Nathan Peterman.
Yeah, I don't know.
They got to figure that out with
Sean
Buffalo.
McDermott, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. My disappointment of the week is the Lions. The Lions were expected to contend in the NFC North with the Vikings and the Packers, and then they come out and lose to what was supposed to be a tanking Jets team, but I don't know. They just looked horrible. Stafford looked bad.
Just for the playoffs. Watch out.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Darnold threw a pick six in the first play, and you're like, okay, Lions defense looks great. And then after that play, that's the only points that they could really score. I mean, they clearly struggled. Matt Patricia looked horrible, and if that's going to keep it up, Matt Patricia's going to be back on the New England coaching staff next season.
A game like that, coming from people that are Bears fans, that's a tough game to watch because Sam Darnold, yes, he had that just awful pass to start the game. That's textbook what you don't do.
Yep.
But he showed so many signs of potential and of a great quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a gunslinger, but you just don't see that with Trubisky.
Mm-hmm.
Darnold already looks far and above better than Trubisky, and Trubisky's already had a year in the league. I just think Bears fans, you gotta
wonder if you waited one more year. All right, so let's get into week 2, the upcoming week, Matt. First game that these viewers need to see.
Barring Rodgers playing, I think he's going to play. It came out it was a knee sprain. He said he was going to play, but you can't take that. Packers Vikings in Lambeau. I think it's going to be a great game.
And who are you looking out for in that game? Who's the key player to watch?
It's got to be Aaron Rodgers. Every time he's on the field, he gives his team a chance to win. There has never been a game. It's the same way as these quarterbacks like Rodgers, like Brady. In the past years they've been starting, you can never look at a game and say they lost this game because of Tom Brady. They lost this game because of Aaron Rodgers. The Vikings defense is probably top to bottom. They have the best roster in the whole league. But the best player in the game is going to be on the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is going to come out at home with the home crowd behind him. Everyone's talking all this hype about the Vikings, and Rodgers doesn't hear it. He's ready to come out. He wants the division. Simple as that.
Yeah, and I just think another key player to watch on the other side of the football is Kirk Cousins, the guy the Vikings paid a ton of money to this offseason. Looked really good in week 1 against the 49ers. He has great weapons with Thielen and Diggs and Rudolph. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think it's going to be the Packers offense versus the Vikings defense. Mm-hmm. And I think we'll see whoever follows their game plan best and does what they got to do will come out on top.
As highly as I think of Rodgers, I know he's going to come out and play a great game. If Kirk Cousins turns the ball over, the Packers will win the game. His job as the Vikings quarterback is to not turn the ball over and get them in position to score points. If they hold on to the ball, I just don't see how Aaron Rodgers can carry the team past the best roster in the league.
So what do you think is more important for the Packers defense to focus on stopping Diggs and Thielen or to really focus on Dalvin Cook and Latavius Murray in that backfield?
The Packers have a lot of young talent in the secondary, Kevin King, Josh Jackson, Jair Alexander. I think we're going to be able to stand up to Thielen and Diggs. They have a history of literally ripping apart the Packers, but in the past, we haven't had Mike Pettin. We haven't had the talent we've had. I think we need to sell out and stop the run. I think the Packers defense is designed to play from ahead, pressure the quarterback, because they have Rodgers on the other side. That's what they game plan for. So if Green Bay can get the ball first, put some points on the board, and then the defense can play from ahead, and we can keep scoring in the beginning of the game. The Packers need to keep scoring. I think it'll be a game. I think they have a chance to win, but we'll see. I think it's more important to stop the run, though.
Yep, and your next game to preview for next week?
Probably Pats Jags, rematch of the AFC Championship in Jacksonville this time. Pretty hyped up game. I think it's going to come down to Fournette and Bortles because the Patriots have a history of not being able to stop these big, strong running backs because the Patriots do not have a big front. They never have had a big front seven, but Fournette's battling an injury, so his ability to play is going to be telling of what the outcome of this game is.
Yeah, and I think on the other side, obviously guys like Brady and Gronk are going to be huge for this team, but you got to look at the defense for the Patriots, and you got to look at one guy in particular, Trey Flowers.
He's got to get in there.
Huge rising star in the league, in my opinion. He needs to get in Bortles' face. Blake Bortles is a mediocre quarterback at best. If you put any sort of pressure on him and if you force him to throw those bad throws that he usually does, get some turnovers. Because if Tom Brady has the ball for the majority of the game, the Patriots will win.
Yeah.
I don't care how good the Jaguars defense is. If Blake Bortles is turning over the ball and throwing horrible passes and getting 3 and outs just that quick, then I think the Patriots should win this game.
I agree.
All right, next game for you, Matt.
Let's jump out of order. Let's go to the Panthers and Falcons.
Yep.
I think this game, considering the Saints dropped that week 1, if the Panthers didn't hold that game against the Cowboys, the Buccaneers would be the sole leaders in the division.
Yep.
But I think this game is going to be telling. Game is in Atlanta, correct?
I believe so.
Chris McCaffrey is my guy to watch. The Falcons have a history of not being able to stop pass-catching and running backs. He had a tough week 1. I think the ability to get the ball into playmakers' hands like McCaffrey, even after the Greg Olsen injury, if they get the ball in McCaffrey's hands and watch him work against this injured Falcons defense, I think they'll have a chance to win the game.
Yeah, and that goes right into my team to watch, actually. I'm not even going to say player to watch. It's the Falcons defense as a whole. You lose 2 Pro Bowlers in Deion Jones and Keanu Neal. You got to respond because the Falcons are supposed to be a contender. They're supposed to be an offense-heavy team, but their defense has been getting better every year under Dan Quinn, and you lose 2 of your best players. It hurts, but it can't be a lost season just because you lose 2 of your best players. It can't. So the Falcons defense really needs to come out and say, hey, we lost 2 of our best players, but that's not going to define our season.
Move to the Chiefs and the Steelers. I think game is in Pittsburgh. I think a lot of hype is going to be surrounding the Chiefs last week, their performance with Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill. I think the Steelers are going to come out and they're going to play a great game. I think Big Ben's going to come out at home. He's notoriously known for being a better quarterback at home than on the road. I think the Steelers are going to come out and get the win this week.
Yeah, and it was just reported that Le'Veon Bell still has not reported to his team meetings and will most likely not be playing against the Chiefs. On the flip side, I think player to watch for the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill,
just got him
had
the ball.
over 200 all-purpose yards. He had 2 receiving touchdowns and 1 punt return touchdown. He's a dangerous guy. I mean, they call him the cheetah for a reason. He's virtually unstoppable if you get him out on a go route. He's one of the fastest guys in the league. Dangerous player. That should be a great game to watch. We'll see how Mahomes responds in his second game of the season.
I agree. So now let's move to our last segment, the bold predictions of the week.
Bold predictions of the week.
I'll start it off. Gonna have to go with Packers-Vikings. I think it's gonna be the game of the week. Rodgers gonna put up over 300, 3 touchdowns. Kirk Cousins gonna throw a pick in the last drive. Packers gonna win, lead the division.
Okay, I'm gonna cut this out. Who are the Browns playing? Do we know?
I'll look it up.
I want to make a bold prediction about the Browns.
I know we didn't talk about this, but I thought it'd be a good segment to have.
Yeah, no, I like it. We'll just cut this out. This little lull.
The Browns play the Saints
The Saints, okay.
in New Orleans.
In New Orleans. All right, I have a bold prediction, and it involves the Cleveland Browns. Actually, no, I'm not going to do the Browns. All right, I'm gonna do a different one. We'll cut all this out. Okay. My bold prediction of the week is that Ryan Fitzmagic returns and goes into Philadelphia.
Yeah, into Philadelphia.
Into Philadelphia against Nick Foles and the Eagles, and gets the Buccaneers another win, and makes it harder for Jameis Winston to get his starting job back when he returns.
All right.
I'm going all the way in.
I like it.
All right, thank you for watching our first episode of Football Focus, and we hope to catch you next time. I'm Ben Aronson here with
Matt Martin.
and we'll see you after week 2. Hello, and welcome back to Football Focus. I'm Ben Aronson here with
Matt Martin.
and on this episode we will be previewing week 3 of the NFL. Matt, get us started. What do you want to start with?
Before we go into the week, I think let's start with some storylines. First one, gotta start with Josh Gordon.
As a Patriots fan, I love this move. If he can stay on the field and he performs at the level that he can, and he's not doing drugs, I'm happy with this move.
The Patriots traded a 5th-round pick for Josh Gordon and a 7th. There's also extra parts of the trade where if Gordon doesn't play a certain amount of games, but not worrying about that. On the surface, yes, I love the deal because Josh Gordon's very talented. With a player like Brady, he can be great, but you look at his past. In college, he dealt with off-the-field issues at Baylor. So then he was kicked out of school and went to Utah. He dealt with the same off-the-field issues where he was disciplined. And then the Browns took a 2nd-round pick on him, took a risk. And we've seen he's been great for 1 year, but repeatedly being suspended, repeatedly not on the field. And yes, you say, oh, Belichick can have the talk with him, Brady can have the talk with him, make him buy in. But how many times in his life has he gotten this talk, and why is it going to be different this time? Not saying I think he's not going to work out. I'm just saying it's not a guarantee.
I was thinking it's an example of low risk, high reward. I think giving up a 5th-round pick for a guy with Gordon's potential. If you can get him to stay on the field, it could be a game changer for the Patriots, especially with their offense struggling, especially in these next 2 games without Edelman. But next storyline?
Le'Veon Bell still is not reported to the team.
Yeah, and Antonio Brown actually skipped some meetings this week too. So
he was disciplined for it.
It does, but it's not looking too good in Pittsburgh. They're 0-2, or they're 0-1-1. Le'Veon Bell's not there. Antonio Brown seems upset. Big Ben looked great week 2, looked horrible week 1. You got to be wondering about the future in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's tough because that division, the Bengals have looked pretty good. The Ravens look like a solid team. They got to figure it out soon.
Yep. And then last storyline before we get into this week's preview of games.
Aaron Rodgers' knee. You saw him. I think he scrambled like twice in the Vikings game. He's literally hobbling on one knee. I just don't. A lot of people were speculating. They're like, oh, maybe he's playing with a torn ACL. Just gonna shut that one down. There's no way. Phillip Rivers played 1 game in the playoffs with a torn ACL because it was the AFC divisional or the AFC championship game. Aaron Rodgers is not playing on a torn ACL. Yes, it's physically possible, but why would he go a full season playing on a torn ACL?
Yeah, I mean, I just think even it's amazing because even at half health or whatever he's at, he's still dominating the league.
One of his greatest aspects is how his ability to make throws, make plays outside the pocket, and improvise, and that's kind of being taken away from him, and he still played pretty good on Sunday against a great defense.
Yeah, we'll see what he can do this week. And
let's move into week 3, New Orleans at Atlanta. This game is pretty big for both teams. Atlanta 1-1, New Orleans 1-1. In a very tight and contested division, this one's gonna be fun to watch. I think the player to watch to me has to be Alvin Kamara because Atlanta game plans to it makes them even a little worse at this now because they're very susceptible to running backs in the passing game because that's what they game plan for. They say, we're not going to let you beat us outside with wide receivers. We're going to funnel your targets to running backs and tight ends. Christian McCaffrey, we saw, had like 14 catches last week. And what do you think Alvin Kamara is going to do this week? I think it's going to be a good one to watch.
I think New Orleans looked horrible to start the season. Obviously, that huge loss to the Buccaneers. And a game that they probably should have lost against the Cleveland Browns. I think they need to come out. And if they lose this game, or even if it's close, I mean, you got to be questioning the New Orleans Saints this year. Everyone expects them to win the NFC South, but losing this game to Atlanta could be crucial to them. And then on the flip side, Atlanta had a big bounce back, put up 12 points week 1 against the Eagles, and then come out and put 31 up against the Panthers. So I think a big thing for Steve Sarkisian is to find that consistency in the offense this week against the Saints.
He's going to need it because he's really on the hot seat. Week 1, he had a tough time play calling. Last week, it was better. I just think you got to get Julio Jones involved. He is such a tremendous talent. Like, talent-wise, might be the best wide receiver in the NFL. I just don't know how they can't get him involved.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens with that one.
Who'd you pick to win the game?
I'm going to go with the Saints.
Go with the Saints.
I think the Saints are a better team, and I think that this offense will put up a ton of points against a now shaky Atlanta defense with those 2 key injuries.
Staying in the NFC South, let's move to Cincy at Carolina. What do you think?
A lot of people are in on the Cincinnati Bengals bandwagon, and I'm approaching it, but I'm not on the train yet. I think the Panthers are the better team. I think Christian McCaffrey will dominate again. Obviously, no Greg Olsen still, but Devin Funchess, great target for Cam Newton. Cam Newton's going to get out and run, and I just think the Bengals defense won't be able to limit them, and I think Carolina wins this game.
I'm a big believer in the Panthers, in Cam Newton and his rushing. Chris McCaffrey's been playing great, but I just don't see how the beaten up and quite poor Carolina secondary can handle Eifert, Tyler Boyd, and AJ Green. Joe Mixon's out for this game, but Giovanni Bernard is a very serviceable backup. Some people think he's like almost better, but I don't believe that. But I think it's going to be a good game. I think Cincinnati is going to come into Carolina and win this game and go to 3-0.
I mean, I think it all relies on the consistency of Andy Dalton, too. That's a big question of why I can't hop on that train yet. Some weeks we see Andy Dalton be great, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and then he comes in the next week, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. So I think a big thing for the Bengals throughout the season is just Andy Dalton being a consistent quarterback for him.
Let's move on to a game on the surface. Doesn't really have any chance of being a close game, but Pats at Lions. Big thing watching Matt Patricia go against his old team, seeing what Josh Gordon's going to do. And I think people are comparing Josh Gordon, this acquisition, to Randy Moss.
Yeah, no.
There's a big difference. One, Randy Moss is just a more talented player. And two, Randy Moss loved the game. He had a tremendous work ethic. He was very smart.
No
Josh Gordon is not that. There's
no
all the stories. Josh Gordon would be at practice in Cleveland, and the defense would go on to work on their stuff, and Josh Gordon would go to the locker room and check his phone with, like, Greg Little and his other friends. Greg Little, most of you probably don't even know who he is. He's not even playing anymore.
Relevant.
But I think what the Pats should do, I don't think they're going to, but I think for this game, they should just line him up all the way outside, and every play just say, you're going to run straight up the field. Keep the defense honest. He's not going to learn the playbook this quickly because the Pats have a very detailed playbook, very intricate. They have a lot of plays that build off each other. They'll run a screen. We saw it last week. They ran a screen to Patterson, and they say, all right, we're going to come out with the same exact look and fake the screen and then go to someone over the middle. There's a lot of
Perfect. Was that Chris Hogan, that touchdown?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
There's a lot of plays building off each other, and Gordon's not going to have the time to learn them. He's not going to be in shape enough for the Patriots. The Patriots are going to work him this week. I think they should just line him up outside, keep the defense honest, and say, just run by everyone. But I think he's just going to see a limited role this week.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what the Lions do, because I think if you have Gordon on the outside, do they put a guy like Darius Slay on Gordon?
Slay might miss the game.
Slay might not play, so that's even worse for the Lions. That's already a pretty bad secondary outside of Slay. So, I mean, obviously, I think the Patriots win, but you got to look at the storylines. You got to look at Josh Gordon going to New England, like you said, and you got to look at Matt Patricia going against his old team. And if he loses this game and the Lions go 0-3, their season, I mean, in that NFC North, their season's basically over.
Also, Matt, the Lions have looked they don't look ready to play. They've been saying it all. They say it all offseason. They said the Lions didn't look ready. They didn't look dedicated. They didn't look like they were buying in. And a lot of that's talk. A lot of stuff in the preseason you can't listen to. But they came out and put up a dud against the Jets, the New York Jets, who are better than people think. And then the next week, the 49ers, they kept shooting themselves in the foot, had a chance to win, and still didn't do it. And Garoppolo did not play good.
And it's not even Matt Patricia was supposed to just come in and fix a defense that was poor and an offense that was already great. And the offense, Matt Stafford has not looked good under him.
The offense looks inept, and the defense looks inept. They can't make anything going. But this is going to be a big test for them. It's hard because you got to think in the NFC. If you want the wild card, like you got to look for like.
You got to beat the Jets.
You got to need 10. You might even need 11 wins. If the Lions drop this game, they need to go 11-2 the rest of the season. Still having the Vikings twice, still having the Packers twice, still having the Bears twice.
And I think all three of those teams are better than the Lions.
I agree. They needed to go 2-0 to start the season to even be in the conversation. But
I think at halftime, Matt Patricia will be begging, or at the end of the game, Matt Patricia will be begging Bill Belichick for his defensive coordinator job back.
Moving on, the last game. This one's gonna be one to watch. Pittsburgh at Tampa Bay. This is almost make or break for the Steelers. 0-1-1.
If Cincinnati wins this week and the Steelers lose, I mean, I think Cincinnati is the new favorite in the division by far. And, I mean, I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. Two horrible defenses in Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh. And especially without Le'Veon Bell, I think Tampa Bay is a horrible secondary, but I think they're really going to crack down on Antonio Brown. And I think you got to focus on Antonio Brown. You kind of let James Conner do his thing. But I think Tampa Bay wins this game.
What's interesting to me is Dirk Cutter and Tampa Bay's philosophy on defense is they want to stop the run and make you pass the ball no matter who you're playing. And I just don't get it.
You can't do it this week.
You can't.
Especially against a guy like Antonio Brown and Juju Smith, who's doing so good.
You can't put in a game plan to start the season and say every week we're going to take away the run.
You got to be able to adapt your game plan.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, playing the Steelers, this week I say, I'm gonna put 3 in the box. I want you to run on me. No, I'm not actually gonna do that, but I want you to run on me.
Let James Conner run, shut down the 2 outside guys. But I think
Pittsburgh's gonna win this game. I'm not a believer in Tampa Bay.
I'm not a believer in Tampa Bay either, but I'm also not a believer in Pittsburgh. I think they were seen. I think I viewed them and the Jaguars as the Patriots' biggest threats in the AFC. But I mean, I think Tampa Bay's hot right now, even if it's a fluke. I think they win this game at home. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick turns in another solid performance because if he's not turning over the ball, he's doing enough to get them the win. And I think Pittsburgh's a bad place to be right now. Fans should be upset with how Antonio Brown feels, and the fact that Le'Veon Bell still isn't there is just saying something about the culture in Pittsburgh. Le'Veon Bell's done so much for that team on the field, so I mean the fact that they won't pay him, it's just kind of you got to question the philosophy of that team.
When he's on the field, you give him 30 touches a game and he makes everything with those touches. I just don't get. I get the philosophy about money, but at the same time, with how much he's done for that team, like you just gotta pay him. Like I know I keep referring back to the Packers, but people talk about a difference between people talk about how Tom Brady what makes him so great is part of the reason is that he takes the distance because the New England Patriots put him in a great situation as well. Even though he's an extremely talented player and leader,
they always make sure he has good teammates.
He wouldn't be able to accomplish what he does without the team around him.
Exactly.
So he knows that he shouldn't be out here asking for all the money when he knows that he needs the guys around him. He needs the scheme. But you go to the Packers, and they've never really had that much talent around Rodgers. He's putting out tremendous seasons that get wasted by a defense, by little blunders in the coaching, and they say you deserve this biggest contract of all time, and they gave it to him. Same thing with Le'Veon Bell. When he's healthy, probably the best running back. Not healthy when he's on the field, probably the best running back in the NFL. He's a threat in the passing game, a threat in the receiving game. He makes Antonio Brown better because people can't just focus on him. He makes Juju Smith better, makes Big Ben better. He just makes the whole team better, and I don't understand why you just don't give him the money he deserves and then work somewhere else, try and build defense to the draft. Like, how are you going to give up the best running back in the NFL?
Yeah, I agree. But let's go to bold predictions real quick. What is your bold prediction for this week?
Do you want to start it off?
The Cleveland Browns will get their first win this week over the New York Jets. It's time, Cleveland, back to Believeland. Not as bold as my last week pick of Tampa Bay over Philadelphia, which actually ended up working out, but I think Tyrod Taylor, Hugh Jackson, and the Cleveland Browns fan base got their first win in over 2 years.
All right, I have two bold predictions. My first one is I think this is the week Patrick Mahomes comes back down to earth. I think Kareem Hunt's going to get very involved in the running game. I think who are they playing? The 49ers. 49ers are susceptible against the run. I think everyone's high on Patrick Mahomes this week. I just think this is the week when Kareem Hunt's going to get involved. He's going to play great. And then my second one is that Cincinnati's going to go into Carolina, shut down Cam Newton, and win the game.
And one more. Jimmy Garoppolo goes 0-3. Jimmy Garoppolo will be 0-3, and all the hype that he had leading into the season and him saying that he thinks that he's better than Brady will die down, and he will come back down to earth because, you think you're 6-0 as a starter, and then reality hits when you're in your first full season without Bill Belichick. So,
And you're not playing crappy teams like the 2017 Bears.
Exactly. Have fun in San Francisco, Jimmy Garoppolo. So that's all for our show today. We hope you enjoyed. And once again, I'm Ben Aronson.
I'm Matt Martin.
And we'll see you next week.